Welcome to another episode of the InfoTech Growth Partner Podcast, the podcast where the future of IT unfolds and we dive deep into the pertinent developments in regards to IT and data with leaders and experts in the IT consulting field. My name is Jasper, and today I have the pleasure to have Omri Ajchenbaum on the show. Omri is the Vice President of Services at PAteam, and it's great to have you on the show, Omri. Welcome.
Thank you, Jasper. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. Lovely talking with you.
Awesome. So for the listeners, for the viewers, can you give us a little bit of an introduction onto yourself, your background, and obviously what you guys do at PAteam?
Sure. So maybe I'll start with the PAteam. PAteam is we are a consultancy company or an IT consultancy company we specialize in digital transformation. And in practice, it just means that we go to organizations and we help them either establish or perfect practices and implement solutions with specific technologies. And these specific technologies are automation, AI, and cloud. We have supporting services that we sell and some minor products, but the main focus is, as I said, AI, cloud, and automation. So that's sort of what we do. In terms of the company, some relevant information maybe is the types of customers we have are usually large international corporations. So we deal with fairly complicated organizations with everything that comes with corporations. And in terms of industries, we have experience with most, if not all, industries. But I would say the most recent and biggest ones that we're engaged with are with government, finance, education, transportation, and retail. So it's sort of very general information about the company. As for myself, as you mentioned, I'm the Vice President of the Services Division in PAteam. In practice, it just means I manage all the different department heads we have, and the departments are in no particular order: academy, development or implementation, where we develop the solutions we sell or provide resources to our customers. Then we have operations, which are in charge of making sure everything stays up and running. PMO, PMs, VAs, and such. Infrastructure and cloud, and the innovation department, which is mainly AI. So I manage all the managers of these departments, and additionally, I'm part of the company's leadership. So I hold some cross-company practices, mainly having to do with innovation, scalability, and company structures, both for business purposes and operational purposes. Which basically means I just make sure that the departments and divisions operate in a professional, scalable, and sort of future-proof way.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the introduction, and maybe even adding on the last thing that you said, being future-proof. I know you're involved with implementing AI both internally in the company, but also with clients as well. Obviously, in this time, date and time, a lot of companies are looking to implement AI into their organization themselves, really try to understand where should we start, how should we do it, etc., etc. Can you maybe, based on your knowledge and experience, walk us through your approach to incorporating AI into an organization?
Yeah, sure. So I would say the first thing an organization needs to do is to focus. So AI is a very, very broad brush. So I would say the first thing, as the CTO or whoever is in charge of incorporating the AI into the organization, you need to understand what is it you want AI to do. Maybe there are a bunch of things, but you should start with one. Don't try to implement everything at once. I would say for most organizations, increasing productivity would probably the go-to first thing you want to do, for many reasons. The main reason is that there are so many tools out there already that can help you with that, and it's sort of it has been tested and it is working. Maybe it's not as sexy as the bleeding edge and predicting the future implementations of AI, but it's well tested. Some organization will want to go for this. I want to predict what the market is going to do tomorrow, right? Maybe. But whatever it is, select a lens and focus on that. So that would be step one. After you selected what it is that you want AI to do in your organization, you should educate yourself, and you should educate. Well, it depends on your level on the organization. But I would say educate the senior management and educate the middle management. You're going to have to work together in order to implement this. So you should know what the capabilities are, what is more probable, what is less probable, and this would be sort of the stepping stone for the next step, which would be sort of the thinking and planning phase. So once you understand what the capabilities are, maybe do some vendor analysis, maybe get a consultant. Once you understand what the capabilities are, basically start the planning. So, okay, so I know what it can do. Now, what do I want it to do? Right? What does my department or division look like after I incorporate AI into it? After you've done all of that, and we can elaborate on any of the phases as you wish, but after you've done that, you need to go to sort of a execution plan phase where, okay, I know what I wanted to do, and I know how it will impact me, but now we need to get practical, and we need to understand timelines, and we need to understand, okay, practically, how do I do it? Do I develop something internally? Do I bring in an external company to do it for me? Do I buy a product that does it? So you need to plan the execution of the integration. And then the implementation itself, if you do it internally, or the integration if you buy something and you need to integrate it into your organization. And the final step would always be sort of a feedback loop, right? So you implement it, you integrate it. Now it's time to rethink it and evaluate, let's say it like this, evaluate what you've done and maybe change course if needed. So again, very quickly, very roughly, these are the steps.
Yeah. And what I can imagine, like obviously what you mentioned is pretty thought through, like from the start, really determining like what is it that you're actually trying to do with it, what are the capabilities available, the things that we can do, and what is the thing that we should focus on first. I can imagine, especially because it's very interesting, of course, AI. A lot of companies, a lot of people want to experiment with it. Mm-hmm. I can imagine that a lot of companies sort of try to skip steps in that sense. Really want to find ways on how to make sure they can implement at least something in the short term. How do you see that? Do you see companies that are trying to skip some steps in this process that you just laid out? And if so, like what does this lead to? Does it actually lead to any value in the end?
So from what I can see, it's a mixed bag, but a lot of times, especially with big organizations that we work with, the push actually comes from the middle management and not necessarily being championed by the senior manager. So there, I occasionally I do talk with CTOs that have AI sort of in their plans, but most don't. Most think of it as sort of a pet project. And yeah, we're doing so many things. We'll get to it when we get to it. It's interesting. Let's try and play around with it. But the people that actually want to use it and push for it are sort of middle management. And that could work, but at the end of the day, you're going to need a champion. Like you're going to need a senior champion if you actually want to integrate it properly across the organization. But what we do is we try to work locally, right? So within the departments, we try to plan it properly. And I would say that, again, especially big organizations that went through the digital and productivity revolution of automation already have some experience integrating these disrupting technologies, especially when it comes to productivity in the organization, right? So they're going to have some experience. And if you don't, that's fine. There are plenty of consultancies like us and any of the big consultancies for sure that can assist you and already have plenty of experience integrating these disrupting technologies in organizations.
Yeah. So, and what you mentioned yourself, like typically it's been driven by the middle management, and I can imagine even from the more operational departments as well, people that are actually doing the things, because especially I think if you're talking about efficiency and those types of things, that is something that is directly impacting and helping them. So that's probably the reason that it's most probably not the senior management that is actually, of course, they are seeing developments, they see the value of such things, but the people actually experiencing it on the working floor, so to say, are probably the ones that will bring it up, and then indeed try to get the whole company to move with it and get some championing from the senior management, obviously. Um, how do you see that in a company? Do most companies find it easy to do that in a bottom-up way, so more from the middle or lower management roles up towards the senior management? Because as you said, it's very important to have a champion there, to get some budget there, to get some focus on these types of things. How do you see that?
Yeah, so I think okay, maybe to your comment about it being mostly the operational people that want it. Um, for whatever reason, I find it that the business people are more excited about integrating AI and finding out and sort of exploring the opportunities with AI. The IT people, for whatever reason, are a bit more hesitant, which intuitively you would think it would be the other way around, but that's just the data from the ground, at least with the companies that we work with. So I think we need to understand that with big organizations, it's an oil tanker, right? It's not. It takes a while for them to shift course. So it's not uncommon for, especially with these new technologies, um, the, you put sort of set facts on the ground with business processes, especially with the business units, and then eventually, once you show the ROI, people upstairs go, "Oh, yes, that makes sense. Let's implement this here and here and here and here." That just, I think it's a normal, unfortunately, but it's a normal case for large organizations. Um, yeah, that's again, this is just talking from experience.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's quite logical, especially obviously the senior team always wants to see some ROI in some
Yeah.
way, or at least how it's impacting the business, how it's impacting the bottom line, the top line of the business in the end.
Mhm.
Obviously, that's not always possible to completely have that and really see how it's going to turn out. But at least some initial hooks, sort of, to see, well, this is something interesting. This is something that we need to invest some more in because we see an opportunity there. Maybe you laid out the first couple of steps, the steps that companies should take in order to really implement this effectively.
Mhm.
As I said, and as you mentioned earlier, you have been implementing some AI things internally as well. Can you maybe walk us through how you guys did it, just to give an example of, with each of these steps, how you could practically actually do that?
Yeah, sure. So with us, okay, so we have to remember that we come from an automation background. So as I said, we have a lot of experience in sort of transforming organizations or adopting technology into organizations, right? So for us, it was just another project, but in this case, internally, where all the champions were bought in advance, sort of. The senior management, I have some influence there, so that was easy, right? That was out of the way very quickly. And then it was about getting the middle management on board, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to be able to push everything myself, right? You're going to have to work with people. You're going to have a team of champions that deliver the message and in the language that the staff, the rest of the staff understands, and constantly, right? So the next step was middle management. Basically, I made sure. So we didn't. I made sure we do it in the, in the planning of the following year. right? So I waited until the end of the year, and part of the goals for the following year were around AI. So the first goal was literally rethink your SOPs in your department. So luckily for us, we're very structured. We already had SOPs for all departments. We already knew what we were doing, how we were doing them. So the first goal was to Q1 rethink your SOPs and reshape them where AI is included within them, right? And we had sub goals and all of that, but that was the first goal. And then after and that was the same goal for all departments, right? So it was once we got all the information from the department heads, and also it's worth mentioning, each department has their own needs for AI and their own wishes. So it was very important that we do that I get the information from the operational people, like you said, because it cannot be, or it's unlikely for it to be a one solution fits all. So we got all the data, and then it was about planning, prioritizing, and create an integration plan, right? So once we got the data, I looked at all the departments. I sort of sat with the department heads, understood which functions, and there are many considerations you need to take into account. How quickly can you implement what they want? What is the ROI? Is it even worth doing what they want? And so on. We prioritized, we created a plan for the year, and we just started implementing it and executing it across the year. Then then there are other things you need to. So it's all good and well to plan and do the practical implementation, but you actually need to adopt the solution. You need people to use it at the end of the day, right? If nobody uses it, that's meaningless. So we started. We've put in some practices to encourage people to use the tools and yeah, it's an ongoing process, right? We're far from done. It's going to be ongoing for years now. But these are sort of the practical steps that we took, and I can, if you're interested in the, like technically what we did or practically what we did to encourage people, I can also elaborate on that if you.
Please do.
Okay, so from my perspective, the first thing that was critical is to have people involved in shape. They need to feel engaged and they need to be actually involved in shaping the process, or not necessarily the process, but the integration of the technology. So as we talked about the managers, the middle management, that was locked in already. But as for the rest of the staff, we are literally running polls, for example, for different functionalities that we're thinking about developing, and we're usually so according to popularity, we usually stick to that. And once we're done and we roll it out, we demonstrate, like we show people on wide forums, hey guys, we just added this functionality that you requested here, right? So people feel like they have an impact on what's going on in the integration. Aside from that, it's really about the procedures, right? So we change the procedures in preparation for this. So people don't really need to think about using AI. They're just doing their job and they end up using AI. So it's very natural. So that was another thing. And another critical thing that we were really cautious with, we had to make sure it was easy to use, right? So all is good and well, but if it's not intuitive and easy to use, and people, either it's buggy or it's just not intuitive, people are really going to reject it. So what we did, we basically consolidated all the usage into a single application, a web application, and everything they need is in a single place. We created portals for specific roles. So if I'm a developer, I need to go to this specific place, and I have everything I need there. So it's very intuitive, and the friction is really minimal. There's no friction here. So I think that should, gets more complicated than that, but for now, that will do.
Yeah, and especially you mentioned making it as frictionless as possible, because if there's any friction with the people actually having to use it and actually making sure it creates an ROI for the business. If there's a lot of friction, you will never do it because, if people don't do it, if people don't want to work with it, it will never happen. Maybe to get a little bit of perspective, can you give some examples of really actual use cases of things that you've implemented yourselves, but also with clients as well, just to give us a perspective on how these use cases could look like?
Yeah, sure. So with clients, it's anywhere from document processing. Okay, so intelligence document processing, not necessarily the OCR, the original OCR we know, but it's more complicated than that nowadays. More accurate, more effective. So ranging from that to classification, to knowledge and data management. That's the main areas we do with customers. Internally, we're doing all of that, but we're also a bit more adventurous. So internally, for example, we have a lot of things internally. Where do we start? So we integrated with Teams and SharePoint and all of that. So we really use it to manage all our files. So it's really effective in that regard. We created, we call it a PAteam Copilot. Basically, we trained we trained a language model specifically on all the information we have, both technically, but also, let's say, HR guidelines and all of that. So basically, if you need to ask anything as an employee of PAteam, you go to the PAteam Copilot and you just use it as an assistant, and then it will help you. It also serves sort of like a personal assistant, so it can schedule meetings for you in Outlook and all these things that help you. It can create DevOps tickets. So if I'm a developer or PA and I need to create a user story, I can just tell it, hey, I need to create a new feature for this application, and it will actually. A cool thing there is that we get to sort of structure the user story as well. So it's really beneficial when it comes to upskilling people. So you can take a junior where in the past it took a junior maybe, let's say, 6 months before you could put them on a project. Maybe now it's like 3 months because everything is much more structured and they have like a personal assistant next to them that guides them. So we do that. We implemented a function. Now other companies are doing that as well, but we call it document GPT. So you basically upload your document, whether it's a PDF, Word, and you can start sort of asking questions and analyzing that. That's especially useful when you're talking about contracts. It's very long documents where you're maybe interested in very specific things. That's actually very useful. On top of that, we have sort of a developers portal where they have a functionality for debugging, right? So you upload your project file and it will help you debug it. You can tell it, hey, I have an issue in this tab and I'm expecting this and this is happening, and it will help you debug. So it's super efficient. We also integrated some applications that we had from the past that are not AI, but we just grouped them together, right? So things that have to do with code reviews and templates and things like that are also in there. But in the realm of code reviews, the AI, there's also functionality for a code review that is done by the AI. What else? We have a project like a PMO portal where it can help business analysts create design documents out of stories or even code, right? You can give it code and it will generate the design document from the code. So it's super effective. It helps project managers to track hours reporting and find patterns. So that's actually really cool. On top of it, we just added a functionality for HR. We have all these servers in the company, and sometimes it's not that easy to get all the data you want from these surveys. So basically, they upload the surveys results, and they get the output that they need from the AI. and generally speaking, AI is really, so you can look at AI from both the operational, from the technical perspective, right? So code reviews, for example, or debugging, or all these technical things. But you can also look at it from sort of the managerial point of view. What can AI do for me as a manager? And actually controlling data and analysis, AI is actually very good at that. So that is definitely something we're also developing. And there are other things, but I think let's rest for a second.
Yeah, and especially that the use case that you mentioned about creating user stories. I have been a product owner in the past, so that's actually something that I should have had when I was one, because
The request came.
it can be quite a headache to build the right user story based on the actual requirements, the actual things that the business people want. Yeah, that's something that would be very helpful for myself as well. You mentioned,
Coincidentally, the
yeah,
request came from the main product owner from our
yeah,
side. Yeah, she was like,
yeah,
hey, we have to implement this now.
yeah. I get her. I get her struggle. Yeah. You mentioned already you can implement sort of AI solutions from a technical standpoint in terms of the code, those types of things, but also from a managerial standpoint. Are there any parts of the business or other activities that you think where you shouldn't use or implement AI?
Yeah, so I think you should ask yourself how important is the human element in whatever it is I want to do. Um, and if the answer is not important at all, it's super technical, I don't care, it's a no-brainer, do it. If the answer is, hey, this is very sensitive and I think it's very important for a human to be in the loop, uh, then skip it. Uh, for me, again, I heard different opinions on this, but this is my personal opinion. So, for instance, you do a yearly review for an employee. Um, you while it is actually fairly easy, and it was a request that we got to sort of collect the data on the employee and have AI process it and even generate the review itself, and it looks super professional, could be even very accurate. Um, but at the end of the day, if it were me and I found out that an AI did my yearly review, I would feel fairly upset. I'm still of the opinion that people would prefer to work for people and not for the machine. And outsourcing the review, which is very personal, to AI, it's sort of like outsourcing it to the machine. Again, I heard different opinions on this, but this is my personal opinion. Um, on the other hand, as I said, if it's something super technical, summarizes for me, I don't see a reason why not. I will say this: it is there has to be a balance. You don't want to dull your expertise or your employees too much, right? So there has to be a balance where they are still aware and capable, but AI is just assisting them and making them more productive. Um, so yeah, again, the question you always should be asking yourself: how important is the human in here?
Yeah, and especially with a review, like I think there's only so much inputs that you can give to a machine for it to review someone. I think it's also more about the experience that you have with working with people that is maybe even more important.
Mm.
Obviously, their output is important, the actual results that they bring, obviously. But I think the review from an HR perspective is it's particularly important on how someone is behaving, how other people are experiencing working with them, how people are working together. So that's actually a good thing to always keep in mind. Maybe to look a little bit into the future, Omri, based on your experience, based on your knowledge, where
Mm.
do you see, what are some interesting developments, at least, that you see that are that will be impacting ourselves and a lot of businesses as well?
Yeah, it's a
Very broad
challenging
question.
question. No, especially because what is true today, tomorrow could be obsolete in this field, as we've learned. Um, but I would say, at least from let's say like this, it really depends on what you want to do with AI, right? Um, If your focus is productivity, then I would say you should definitely be looking at combining AI with automation. So there are a lot of well-established and proven solutions for AI when it comes to productivity, but that's just the brain, right? So the next phase would be to attach hands to that brain, so you can actually have sort of working bots, whatever you want to call it, agents. So I would say we are starting to see more and more opportunities like that, where people, where especially the business, like, okay, we understand AI can do all these things, but now, or we understand that AI can process conceptually all these things, but now we want to actually do that. So some companies, a lot of companies, especially the big ones, are already starting to do that. Where companies like Salesforce or Nice or even UiPath for developers, where you just tell the AI, hey, I want you to do 1, 2, 3, and they are able to do it within the Salesforce application. But obviously, for organizations, you're going to have situations where maybe it's cross-functional, right? So it's not just a single application; it's multiple applications. So you're going to need to sort of have an AI that is above all the other applications, and you're going to need to integrate that AI with automations that can work with all the different applications. So I think when it comes to productivity, that would be what's around the corner. And for anything else that is bleeding edge, my guess is as good as anybody else. It's I heard I have some friends in the industry, and they're working on really cool things, from creating new recipes for companies that are just more efficient, to predicting how plastic surgeries would look like. A lot of cool things. Again, who knows? It's
Yeah, I think a lot of exciting developments are popping up everywhere. And yeah, it's now about how companies can effectively implement it. Because what we also see in a lot of businesses is that their foundation is not in place to gain some value from AI. So obviously
yeah.
your data quality has to be in place. You have to be able to pull in all necessary data that you need to actually get something out of AI. But yeah, it's interesting. It's exciting, but I think we'll probably still go through a ups and downs of of AI, and maybe a lot of realizations that most companies cannot really benefit from it yet, but it will come probably. Omri, I want to really thank you for your insights, for the nice conversation. If there's someone listening that wants to talk with you, wants to learn more about PAteam, where can they find you, or where can they find PAteam?
For me, you can find LinkedIn, or you can shoot me an email at Omri, OMRI, at PAteam.co. And for PAteam, you can just go to either LinkedIn, or you can go to our website, PAteam.co. We'll be excited. Both myself and the rest of the team will be excited to talk with you.
Perfect. I will make sure that those links are provided in the description as well, so people can easily find it.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Omri. Really
Thank you,
enjoyed
sir.
it. And I want to
Same.
wish you good luck with everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you. You as well.
Thanks.